Hello and welcome to the full-time reaction to Celtic Rangers on a Celtic State of Mind. My name is Laura Bradburn and I'm joined yet again by Kevin McCluskie. How are you doing, Kevin?
Oh, I'm doing good. Yes, that was a most enjoyable 90 minutes.
It was a most enjoyable 90 minutes. Perhaps not the rip-roaring second half that we were hoping for at half-time, but give me your thoughts in the second half. What did you think of that?
I thought it kind of... I'll say that one again. I thought it flew by, but in a different way to the first half. So the first half, I thought we were obviously dominant in controlling the game. Second half, it was 15 minutes to go before I realised it. You know, we didn't maybe offer that much in the game, or in the second half, but neither did Rangers. We allowed them a lot more of the possession. We lowered our intensity. They just sat back, soaked everything up, and I mean. Again, kind of looking through notes, and all my notes are substitutions or yellow cards. There was no real chances until maybe Goldson's right at the very end. It was such a comfortable second half.
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting point that you raised there. I think we talked about it at half-time a little bit of trying to decide whether we had control of the match or whether Rangers were poor. And I think one thing that I certainly saw from the second half was that we could have allowed Rangers a lot more of the ball and they still weren't able to create chances. Do you think that was a big factor in it?
Yeah, like you say, the second half, I think Ryan Jack made a big difference for them coming on. He seemed to offer a lot more in the midfield for them. But obviously having the cushion of the 3 goals, we could just allow them the ball and they were doing nothing with it. Ryan Kent did nothing. Anytime he was getting forward, his final ball was really poor. Diallo, who I was kind of looking forward to seeing how he would perform in the first half, did nothing. Sakala did a little bit more in the second half, but really they were poor. And yeah, we could have allowed them all of the ball in the second half, and I don't think they were going to trouble us.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Looking at some of the positives from the Celtic team, you know, everybody's going to come out of this game understandably talking about Hatate and his 2 goals, but I think a player that a lot of people seem to be talking about and seem to be reflecting on his performance was Juranovic at right back. What did you make of the performance he put in both in the first and second half?
Yeah, I thought he was excellent throughout the whole game. His link-up play in the right-hand side going forward, with O'Reilly and Abada was really good. Defensively as well, he was putting in a shift. He was coming back. Kind of right place at the right time a few times. Maybe last-ditch tackles, a little flicks from crosses to clear it away. Overall, I thought he was really good. Probably one of his best performances for us. Kind of an all-round good performance from us. But one player I actually thought had a really good game today, for his standards at least, was Karel Stafford. You know, we kind of... Yeah. He gets a bit of abuse at times. But today I thought he was really solid. He had maybe one slack pass with about 10 minutes to go that he got lucky with. The ball kind of rebounded to him and he was able to get it wide to Juranovic. But other than that, I thought he was excellent at the back as well. And he'll probably be one of those guys that will go under the radar, his performance today. But yeah, I think he needs a little bit of praise. But you're spot on about Juranovic. He was different class as well.
I think the 4 across the back really did well. Another player that I think sometimes, and I include myself in this, maybe gets a bit of a hard time, perhaps because he's not up to the quality of the rest of the 11 that we've got, but he put in a good performance tonight again, was Greg Taylor. Did you think he was solid enough on the left-hand side for us?
Yeah, I'm probably one in the minority that's quite a fan of Taylor. I think he's our best option at left-back. Because he's not a particularly fancy player. You know, we were used to Kieran Tierney he's the archetypal Celtic left back now. He's the standard bearer that you've got to live up to, bombing forward and being that great attacking outlet as well. That's not Taylor's game, but he's pretty steady. He's growing into this sort of inverted fullback that Ange likes as well. You see him coming into the centre of the park and becoming a kind of additional centre midfielder almost. And he did that quite a lot today. He was pulling actually Diallo inside a lot, which again is leaving space for Jota, it was on the left, to get forward. So I thought he had another good game, and I'd say for me, for me, he's an underrated player, and he takes a bit of unwarranted abuse at times.
Mm-hmm. Lots of comments coming in. Neil Doran is saying Juranovic was outstanding. Ben515 is saying O'Reilly was brilliant. We'll go on to talking about him as well. Shane Donovan says Taylor was immense. All of the back four were amazing. And Silky Skills 85 says that nobody let us down today. Fair play to all of them. And Stuart Cameron's just saying to you, Kevin, that well said, Starfelt finally had a good game, which I think he certainly, proved his worth tonight. He proved he was part of this unit at the back four that really shut down a lot of what Rangers were trying to do. But obviously a lot of what we do is about keeping going forward, keeping the pressure up, going forward, which is a great skill of ours. Looking at the forward line, obviously going back again to talk a little bit about the star man Hatate. I can't remember having such a defensive midfielder for us who's also, I wouldn't even say defensive because he does get forward, but he seems to be able to do so much, and yet he's such a goal threat as well. Do you think he, what is your opinion of, or your understanding of what his position is? Because sometimes I find it hard to pin down exactly what kind of midfielder he is.
Yeah, I think it becomes difficult these days because we've got players that are a number 6 and number 8s and 10s, and I think he gets confused in a lot of the maybe new terminologies of what a player is. For me, Hatate is just a central midfielder. I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Yeah.
He plays in the centre of the midfield, and he does everything in there that you want a centre midfielder to do. He can tackle, he can cover the ground, he can pass, he can shoot. He's the complete central midfielder.
Yeah, I think he is. Like, it's that kind of thing of the archetypal, like, box to box midfielder. I think you would say like a Roy Keane or something like that. He's that kind of mould, but he's certainly settling in.
He's the closest that we've had to a Stan Petrov probably since then. Yeah, that was his role, that kind of box to box midfielder that did everything, had a bit of dig defensively, and fantastic going forward.
That's actually a really good shout. I hadn't even thought of that comparison, but he is a bit like a Stan Petrov, and something that actually a type of player I don't think we've had since Stan Petrov, and that's what, going on 15 years now, which is horrible to think about. But looking at the up front as well, I know that Giakoumakis had his fair share of chances. Some of them he missed tonight, some of them he didn't, but I still felt that he played a role in keeping the defence busy for Rangers. Do you think there's a role for him, even if he isn't chipping in with goals constantly? Do you think he still provides something for the team to play around and to work around?
I think there is. Like, in the preview we were saying that I think there's a player in there with him, but he just hasn't shown it enough. He did against Hearts, and he was in a physical confrontation in that game, and he stood up to it, and he was more than a match. And I think it was the same today. It was a physical confrontation up against Goldson and Bassey at the back for Rangers. Excuse me. And he matched him for the time he was on. His movement was good for the 3 chances that he missed. And you've got to say that a good striker gets in there he's there to miss them, basically. If one of them then goes in, that changes his game entirely. Yeah. And he maybe goes on and gets another couple. I think there is a role for him. I think he needs more games to grow into the team. But if he can keep on performing at the level he did today, then he could be a really good asset for us going forward.
Yeah, I think he could be as well. I think, like you say, you can't. Sometimes when they're just not going in for you, the best you can say is that he's in the position, because those chances will start going in. Even if they hit off him and go in, he'll find his form eventually. Brian Maku says GG was very unlucky tonight. He looked deflated when he came off, but enjoying himself at the end, encouraging Hatate to join in. That's one thing I wanted to say to you as well, Kevin, is like, I noticed it with quite a few of the interactions I've seen post games and stuff like that in the past couple of weeks. I saw it when Doak came off after his debut, that Jota and Abada, Jota and Juranovic were being very encouraging to him. You're seeing players who aren't always getting a game still having that that team atmosphere, is that a key part of what we've got here, not just the way that we're playing?
I think it is, absolutely is. And excuse me again, as we were talking before, we were looking back in the previous 18 months and we were losing games because we didn't have a team spirit to get us through them. And now you could tell there was a bit of infighting going on, different factions within the team. Now it's all changed. And the win against Dundee United at the weekend was a team win. You know, the whole team fought for each other, they drove each other on. And then you could see by the celebrations at the end that, you know, Abada didn't go off by himself to take the glory. He was happy to share it with everyone. And it's great to see. Excuse me. And that's the mark of a good team. When you've got everybody pulling together. We haven't had it for long enough, and it's great to see it back.
It's an interesting thing to see. The fact that, like you say, the togetherness from the team. You know, I can remember being on this stream multiple times last season, as you were, and we were talking about all sorts of different things that weren't working at the club, from board level down through off the field coaching, team management, and the old adage is true: if it's all going right on the park, you kind of forget about all that, and it just kind of works, which seems to be happening just now. Looking at our opponents at Rangers, just for a little bit, were you surprised at the lack of challenge from them tonight? Were you expecting more from them? Or, because I have to say, I was going into this one a little bit blind. I haven't seen an awful lot of them this season. I've been concentrating mostly on Celtic, as I'm sure everybody has. But I just kind of assumed that the team that Steven Gerrard had built up last season, given that the personnel hasn't changed a lot, I was expecting to still see a strong performance from them tonight. They looked really, really dead on their feet, didn't they?
They did. I'm kind of the same. I don't watch Rangers. I don't watch the games. So I'm only interested in Celtic when it comes to Scottish football. So obviously I'll watch highlights of games every now and again when I get the chance. I'll read the reports. I know the team set up from last season, and they bossed us around the park 4 times, I think, last season. Really, we were really poor against them, and they were very good. So I was expecting a lot more from them. You just think it's the same team as last year, basically. They'll set up, they'll be solid and stodgy and hard to break down. Maybe they would have been like that if they hadn't lost a goal after 5 minutes. But we blew them away. So whatever their game plan was, after 5 minutes, it was gone. And I think, like, they were poor, but we made them poor.
Joe Fulham on YouTube also says, well, they also conceded 3 against Ross County. Fair point, Joe. That's a fair comment to make. I wanted to get your thoughts on this one, Kevin. Dergamot says, Jota is just different class. Such a pleasure to watch. I love that Ramsey was watching from the stands to see what's coming his way. Listen, I do think Rangers have got a player in Aaron Ramsey. It remains to be seen whether he's the player that we remember from his Arsenal days or from his Euro 2016 days with Wales, but we'll wait and see what happens there. But Jota, Kevin, just an exciting player, I think. Just somebody that gets you off your seat watching him. What did you make of his performance tonight? I can see the smile on your face already. I've
got a man crush on Jota. I'm not even scared to admit it. He's an unreal player, and you don't know how lucky you are if you get to go and watch him every week.
Yeah.
You know, being out here in Hungary, I've only seen him live in the flesh once, and that was when we played Ferencváros. And it's the little things that he does that impress me immensely. You know, you watch a game on the TV, and you're seeing these main actions. Excuse me. But when you watch him again, if you just watch him for 5 or 10 minutes, his movement is unreal. He's always on the move looking for space. When the ball comes to him, it's the deft touches that take a player out the game or that just set something up. He's so alert that, I mean, if we make one signing in the summer, it has to be him. If we only made one, it would have to be him. He's just such a great player. As you say, he's a guy that gets you in your seat at first to go to the game and then out your seat because you're so excited to watch him.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely unreal time to have him with us. Do you think the chances? I don't know. I would love to think that he'll sign for us. I'd love to think that the atmosphere is good enough. But he's also been putting in performances that I'm sure will be catching the eye of other clubs. What do you think the chances are of him getting a permanent deal at Celtic?
If we don't offer him one, then there's something wrong. And then, if we offer him a deal, it's up to him whether he takes it. I'm sure other teams have been watching him, and I'm sure he's caught the eye. But where else is he going to get 60,000 fans that adore him the way that we do? Where else is he going to get an atmosphere like he's experienced tonight? If he goes back to Benfica, I'm sure the derby against Sporting and against Porto is big, but I don't think it's as big as the Glasgow derby. I'm sure their European nights are fun, but if he gets a Champions League night at Celtic Park, that's the best atmosphere in football. So I think, if he's serious about his career as well, Celtic's the place for him to go. He'll be a first team player next season. He'll be in the shop window, and if he wants to go to England after a year or two, he'll probably go with your blessing, as long as we're getting a good fee for him. But if we've got him just now, we've got him in the door, we should just lock it and don't let him out until he signs a contract. It's as simple as that.
I don't know if that's legal, so we'll say we're not sure about that one.
Aye, it might be kidnapped, but it's all for a good cause.
No, I have it on good understanding from some people that I know who follow Portuguese football that he was nowhere near getting in the Benfica first team, which I don't understand from their point of view, but he was nowhere near. So hopefully, from a selfish Celtic point of view, they're not watching too closely, and we can take advantage of saying to him, listen, you've got a chance to be a first team player here next season, and I hope he does. But 1969 Reaperman says, what a birthday I'll have tonight, hail hail, and he certainly will. That's
happy
a cracking birthday
present.
Yeah, happy birthday. I'm looking ahead at the fixtures that we've got coming up over the next couple of weeks. The next one's obviously against Motherwell in the league. We've obviously now got that point ahead of Rangers. We've now got I think it's a 10 goal difference against them. Looking at the way that we're playing, look at the opposition we had tonight, looking at the fixtures we've got coming up, what do you think of our chances of keeping that lead or extending it? Do you think are we in a good place right now, do you think, or is there still a bit of work to be done?
Excuse me. I think we're in a good place. I'm not sure. We're not 16 games or something like that without defeating the league. It might even be more. I'm not sure, but we're on a good run as it is. We've just outclassed the current champions, the team that was top of the table, the team that should be our biggest rivals. Played them off the park really tonight. So in theory, we're looking at playing, again, lesser opposition. Obviously, Motherwell and Aberdeen in the next couple of games, both away, they'll be up for it. They're not easy games, but we've got a momentum behind us now that you've got to think should see us through that. We've got players to come back from injury, from suspension, so you'd imagine we'll only get stronger. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's without even talking about the players that we've got to come back. I mean, we were without Turnbull, we were without Kyogo, we were without Rogic. I'm excited for the future, which I never thought I'd say. Just a word and a bit of a mention about Ange Postecoglou. Obviously, we don't get a lot of time on the pod together, so I don't get to ask you about it often, but Ange Postecoglou, can you believe the turnaround he's brought about this Celtic team? Can you believe the guy we've got our hands on? Because I'm sure there's plenty of people in the chat, plenty of people on this podcast who were doubting his credentials before we knew anything about him, but there's nobody can say anything like that now, can they?
Oh, definitely not. No, I think we've surpassed our wildest dreams at the moment, really. It's the way we are. We've won the first trophy. We've overcome a dodgy part at the start of the season, and we've just grown and grown and grown as the season's gone on. He's rebuilt an entire squad that was falling apart at the seams. I think we were all kind of saying if we're in a competitive position come the new year, he's done a great job. Well, 2-3 games after the new year, we're top of the league. So, he's exceeding the expectation. Apparently, his first season is always his worst. So if this is as bad as it's going to get, bring on next year already. He's definitely. I think he's won over all the doubters that he would ever have had, and he's done it doing things his way, playing that football that he's wanted to play right from the start. So you've got to hand it to him for that.
Yeah, Kevin M is agreeing with you on YouTube, saying this is the age of Ange. It certainly is. I think he said the other day that somebody asked him, you're known for flipping teams when you come in at first, and he did admit that this is maybe one of the biggest upgrades he's had to make in terms of signings and things like that. We were plenty warned by people who knew his football better from Japan and Australia, like you say, that this would potentially be the worst season that we would have. I think my only concern about Ange for the future is, or not about Ange, but for Ange for the future is that, like so many other Celtic managers before him, the only way he can be limited in what he can do is how limited the board's imagination is. Because I think what's clear to see is if you let Ange do what he wants to do, you're going to get results because he identifies good players, he brings them in at cheap money, and he gets them to play the football he wants. Do you think the Celtic board, for as inflexible as they've been in the past, can look at the performance of tonight, the performances of recent weeks, and say, this guy knows what he's doing, we have to back him to the full hilt? Or do you think, unfortunately, we're looking at history repeating itself?
No, I think they've got to back him. Everything that he's done with whatever limitations he's had so far, it's just been success after success. And everything he's touched has turned to gold so far for us. I actually think, and a rare thing for me to think this, the board has backed him, and they have been good with Ange. Because previously we would never have gone to Japan and signed 3 players, for example, or we would never have had 3 players from anywhere come in on the first day of the January transfer window. But Ange has gone in, he's told them straight off, these are the 3 that I want. They will fill gaps in the squad, get them in. And the board has backed them. They've done it. So I'd like to hope that would continue. And he's got the proven track record at the moment that he can spot a player and he can develop a player. So yeah, I'd like to hope it would continue, and starting with Jota being the first one in through the door, and then whoever else Ange wants, just go and get him.
Don't forget Carter Vickers either. I'd love to see him come in the door as well.
I'll second that one.
Yeah, talking about those January transfers and the early way in which they were brought in, so often for Celtic, it's not a case where we bring in those early transfers and get our deals done early. How vital has that been, do you think, to the way that we've managed to pick up where we left off after the winter break?
I think it's been good, yeah, for sure, because again, as you say, we normally leave it right until the end, and then we're scratching around and we're bringing in loan signings, and it's like sticking plasters that we're bringing in, players that aren't going to be there come the start of the following season. But this season, we've brought 3 players in on day one. They had a couple of weeks to train and get up to speed and acclimatise to Scotland, and they've been in the team from the first game back. Excuse me. So they've really become a part of the team straight away, and that's vital. That's huge, because we're now at the end of the window, and we're not having to integrate any new players. They're already got that couple of weeks, which I think makes a big difference. And we needed to add to the depth in the squad anyway. So actually getting them in at this time for the first time in a while, being proactive, it's paying dividends straight away.
Absolutely is. Just wanted to put this one up from Owen McGrandles that did make me giggle. Imagine no possession. It's easy if you try. Yeah, I'm not trying to wind anybody up, but that did make me giggle a little bit, so I'll give him that. Looking ahead to the game at the weekend against Motherwell, this game tonight will have taken a lot of energy out of the team. It'll have taken a lot of a lot of Maeda obviously has had the travel to come back. He came on at the end of the match. There was plenty of players who played the full 90 minutes, and even the ones who didn't were knocking their pan in, for want of a better expression, for most of the match. Do you think there's going to be a hangover effect going into the weekend, or do you think we're getting to that stage now that our fitness is carrying us through these fixtures?
Mm-hmm. I think it's more the latter. I think the players are getting used to Ange's methods. Obviously I haven't been to a training session, but I imagine his training sessions are as intense as the games. So I would think the players are getting fit to last the games now. And I think we've seen it in every game really this season, and certainly since we've come back from the winter break, against Hearts and against Dundee United. This first hour of the game, we've gone out 100 miles an hour, really, not relenting, keeping that intensity going. And we've been winning the games mainly within that first hour. And then it's the same team basically that starts the next week. So I think now as well, with having the 5 subs we've got, he is actually able to rotate within the game, which is allowing them to play the same or majority of the same starting 11 week in, week out, which is again another good thing that builds consistency within the team selection.
Yeah, it's a massive, massive feature. It's something that we're crying out for. I remember early on in Ange's phase as manager, he was struggling to get that 11 together because of lack of match fitness, injuries, all that kind of thing. And the fact that we've now got what we would call a recognised, not even a recognised back four, but a recognised 11, it's really doing us a lot of good benefit. And the other thing I really like about it is that we seem to be able to swap players in and out without too much drop off in the standard of play, which is not always something that we had in the last couple of seasons, where there was such a massive dearth in talent between what you had on the pitch and what you had on the bench. Looking forward to the rest of the season. Obviously, we're going to have some European football in the form of the Conference League. We're going to have to look at balancing the squad in that manner and hopefully getting a full squad back in terms of strength. Do you think we've got what it takes to fight on all fronts? I've seen a couple of people saying tonight, potentially looking at another treble. Obviously, we've secured the League Cup. We're still in the Scottish Cup. We're top of the league now. What are the chances of us sweeping the board, do you think? Or am I on cloud 9 after that result tonight?
Possibly a little bit of cloud 9, but why not? After this, why not? Cup competitions take care of themselves. The run-off games. So I'm not going to say don't worry about it as such. Obviously you want to win the Scottish Cup, but for me the league's the priority now. So if we are going to prioritise one tournament over any other, it should be the league.
Yeah.
I don't see how or why we can't win the treble, to be honest, because I think we're good enough to beat every team in the country. So in theory, why not go for a treble? And in terms of Europe, I kind of feel now it's a competition too far in a sense, because this is the third European competition we've been in this season or something like that. It's crazy. So I want us to do well in that competition as well. I think we can. I think we can get past Bodo Glimt, and then we'll see who we get in the next round. But again, I wouldn't be heartbroken if we went out after that. As long as we're able to focus on the league and we don't take our eye off that, that's the main concern for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will agree with that. I think, as much as we want to push ourselves forward and break new barriers in Europe, the league is always where it's going to be at for us. We've got another birthday boy in the chat. It's my birthday, born in 57, Mappy. We have 57 points. I believe this is a sign we'll win the league. I'm celebrating now. Well, I think Mappy's quite clearly just joined us up on cloud 9, so I'm sure we'll live to regret a lot of these statements that we're making tonight. But hey, if you can't have a go at dreaming after a result like that, then when can you?
Exactly.
We're going to
never knock a dreamer.
Never knock a dreamer. Absolutely. thanks everybody for watching tonight. It's been really great to have you on board from Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you're watching. You can subscribe to a State of Mind YouTube channel to get more content from us, Celtic related and others. There's a fantastic interview with Alan Thompson up on the channel, so I would encourage you to get subscribed and get watching that. I'll leave you to your celebrations, whether they go into the wee hours or not, or whether you delay them to the weekend. And I'll say thanks to Kevin McCluskie for joining me on the show. Thanks again, Kevin.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks everybody, and hail, hail. We'll see you again soon.